You came for Laura, right? You were curious to know how my efforts to persuade Byron were going. That's how it is. We followed that girl, but only discovered that she had received a small package from an antique store. Oh, yes. I think I received this. It is a magical tool that allows long-distance communication. I plan to use it to talk to him tonight. In response to Ophelia's question, Isla pulled out a small hand mirror she had been hiding and handed it to her mother. Ophelia, who had received the communication device from her daughter, looked at it with a serious expression. And as Isla watched the scene, it suddenly occurred to her that her mother, who was from the Timor Republic, a country with highly developed magic, might know about such magical tools. I have something exactly the same. It was the moment when Isla's prediction came true. Ophelia, her face contorted, took out the communication device from her chest. It was something she had received from her friend Candace. I don't know how this came into your hands. It's a rare item, fresh from Timora. Feeling like she should probably tell Candace, she handed the handheld mirror-like communication device back to her daughter. Can you do it well? Ophelia asked with a worried expression. He had barely escaped the clutches of that demonic man, had reached a safe place, only to face that horrible face again. No matter how deliberate it was, he felt like he couldn't bear it. I have to try. Somehow I'll convince Byron to stop. Isla clenched her fists in determination. How many thoughts had he pondered while waiting for this day? He constantly recalled the reasons why Noah should not be killed yet, anticipated Byron's counter-arguments, and prepared a response. It was clear that Byron would be angry because she contradicted his opinion, but she couldn't give up because of that. His goal was simple: get Byron to say, "So, let's postpone killing Noah for now." Ophelia stared at Isla's desperate face for a moment, then stroked her hair and opened her mouth. You don't have to worry too much, Isla. Yeah? It's okay if you can't convince him. Then we will find another solution. At her mother's loving words, Isla smiled shyly and nodded. Yes, Mother. Thank you. Ophelia, who had been hugging Isla silently for a while, looked out the window, which was now completely dark, and got up quickly. Oh, how quickly time flies. I am so happy being with my daughter that I lose track of time. I should go now. It's almost time for Laura to come back here. Isla said goodbye to her mother with a somewhat regretful expression. I wanted to spend a little more time with her. But as Ophelia had said, Laura would be back soon and she had important work to do later, so she had to say goodbye to her mother with a heavy heart. And shortly after, Laura returned to the room. Why did you call a busy person for something so trivial? She started complaining as soon as she entered, as if she didn't like Roderick calling her. What did you call for? When Isla asked her what excuse her father had given for calling Laura, Laura laughed and replied, when I was on vacation, I made the excuse that my mother was sick, and he started asking me useless things like, is she okay? And I'll help you if you need anything. Laura continued to criticize Roderick, saying she didn't understand how people could be so hypocritical. Can I contact my father now? Isla asked, trying to ignore Laura's insults to her father in front of her. The most important thing now was to convince Byron. I guess there won't be a problem. It's pretty dark now. Laura nodded and sat next to Isla, apparently eager to be with her. I think it would be easier to persuade him without Laura. It was clear that he would try to silence Isla from speaking against Byron's wishes. Wouldn't it be better to get rid of any elements that could get in the way of achieving your goal beforehand? Well, but, just in case someone suddenly comes in, how about you keep an eye outside? The butler came earlier and startled us. He offered his opinion with an innocent expression, as if he had no other intentions. Perhaps it was a plausible statement, but Laura nodded and left the bedroom. Then I'll stay in the living room and tell you when someone comes. When Laura left the room, Isla looked at herself in the hand mirror with a satisfied expression. "Phew," he said, his expression softening as he looked at his face before pressing the button. She was a girl excited to see her beloved father. "Yes, I think that's enough." He pressed the button on the communication device with his heart in his fist and activated it. A moment later, as if on cue, Byron's face appeared where his had been. "That? Is this how it should be done?" Byron also seemed confused, as if he was using the device for the first time and was unfamiliar with how it worked. He seemed to be wandering for a while, but upon seeing Isla's face, he feigned joy. "Oh, my daughter. It's been a long time. Do you hear me?" "Yes, father. I hear you well." "Yeah. Laura said you couldn't follow my orders," Byron said with a frown, as if he was very displeased with the situation. "Now that you've seen my face, I hope you feel better. Now, follow my orders. I tell you to annihilate the Weishafen lineage." His attitude seemed to say, "I did you a favor by speaking to you directly, so don't bother me anymore and get on with your business." Isla felt like she was facing a wall from the beginning. "I couldn't end like this without being able to say everything I had prepared. But father. What if they catch me murdering that child?" He made a terrified sound. It would be unnatural for a girl who normally never rebelled against him to suddenly express her opinion so frankly. "Do you think I raised you with all my heart and soul just for you to say such weak things?" Byron interrupted her in an angry voice, as if he had no intention of listening to Isla. "With all my heart. Yes, you raised me with all your heart to be a tool to murder my biological father." Isla, resisting the urge to tear Byron's mouth open, patiently opened it again. But, even if I manage to break the iron security and kill that child, my father's revenge will be delayed or become impossible." When Isla spoke with eyes that looked like they were about to burst into tears, Byron finally pricked up his ears and looked at her, as if he had the courage to listen to her story. "What does that mean?" "So, that's—" Isla pretended to be flustered by his question and looked away. Then Byron, frustrated, sighed deeply and said, "Speak slowly, my daughter, without fear. I, your father, will listen to you. How come my revenge will be impossible?" At Byron's words, Isla lowered her head and smiled slightly, without him seeing it. The conversation was finally beginning to flow as she intended. "Even if I kill Noah Weishafen without anyone finding out, the Duke and Duchess will think nothing of the sudden death of a healthy child. So, they'll probably tighten security." Although Noah was said to be frail, he only suffered from occasional minor ailments and had no serious health problems. If such a child had died suddenly, anyone would have suspected murder. At Isla's words, Byron's gaze behind the mirror began to waver. He seemed to think his words made sense. Isla felt that her story was hitting home. If he kept going, he could convince Byron. And besides, if father came here secretly, wouldn't it be the only chance when there is an important event and so many people coming and going that it is chaotic? But if your beloved son dies, there will be no time for such a grandiose event. Isla continued to express her opinion, with logic and solid evidence, but with a scared and suspicious expression. He knew about the plan of taking the mansion while there were many people coming and going for the banquet because he had already experienced it once before returning. But Byron, who had no way of knowing, felt chills knowing that she knew of a plan he had never told her. No one had told her, but that girl thought it up herself. "I can't believe it. I guess blood is thicker than water. No matter how much you call him a fool, Roderick was the Duke of Weishafen, who commanded the empire." Isla also seemed to have grown out of Roderick, developing such keen insight at such a young age. "Even if you take a wolf pup and raise it with its claws sharp and its teeth pulled out, couldn't it become a docile dog?"